Welcome back to Mark Latham's Outsiders, broadcasting in front of the Exchange Hotel in Kalgoorlie, one of the great outsider watering holes there in WA. And I'm joined, happy to say I'm joined by Australia's leading Libertarian, the Liberal Democrat Senator David Leyonhjelm. David, thanks for joining us on the program. And I want to start with an image out of parliamentary sittings in the Senate last Thursday, if we can bring it up. It's you and Cory Bernardi versus the rest. David, a couple of Davids versus Goliath. Explain to us what was happening here.
We were in the process of dealing with the education Gonsksi funding, Gonsksi 2.0 or 2.1, whatever you want to, however you want to call it, last Thursday in the Senate. And Cory and I were trying to limit the amount of government spending. So Cory moved an amendment which would limit the commitment to funding for 4 years. That failed. Then I moved an amendment which would reduce the indexation of government funding of schools from 3.5% down to, locked in for 10 years, down to the CPI. Now the problem is that if inflation is nowhere near 3.5%, which is very likely, and it's certainly well below that at the moment, what we're doing is increasing funding of schools in real terms after inflation, well over inflation, so it's ending up costing us more.
So you and Cory Bernardi voted for the limit on the indexation, and the entire rest of the Senate chamber voted in favour of more spending.
That's right, as you saw there from that picture, there's Cory and me on one side and everybody else on the other side.
Well, hopefully you're wearing that as a badge of honour, But this $23 billion extra that's going into schools funding, it's a waste of money, isn't it? Australia hasn't got a school resourcing problem, we've got a school quality problem. Correct. So you and Cory also voted against the $23 billion.
We did. We voted against the bill at the final readings. And, you know, you're quite right, it is an education quality problem, not a money problem. We've been throwing money into school education for the last decade. In real terms, it's gone up by 50 to 70%, depending on what state you're in. And education standards have been falling. The government acknowledges that. The Minister, Simon Birmingham, was talking about that for months before they brought out this bill. Then all of a sudden, they've got this new plan. We're going to out-Gonsksi, and it's going to cost an extra $23 billion over the next decade, another $1.5 billion over the forward estimates period. And aren't we clever? We've grabbed Gonsksi off Labor. I mean, it was ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. And but Labor fought it because they said, "Oh, it's not enough money." In any case, we own Gonsksi was their argument, you know. So, but basically they were saying, "Oh no, we would put even more money into education," and the Greens couldn't agree. And we're now hearing in the paper every day how they were split within themselves.
But the $23 billion, it's all borrowed money, isn't it?
Oh,
it's money that we actually haven't got. And I'll just tell you a little story around my dinner table. I put the argument to my 3 children. I said, would you rather have $23 billion spent on schooling? Do you think your school's under-resourced? They said, oh, not really. Or would you rather have, would you rather avoid having to pay back $23 billion, your generation, pay that back in debt in years to come? And they said, oh, we don't want the debt, we don't want the debt. No. So there's school kids acknowledging the economics of this. It's money down the drain, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I think if you could say, well, that $23 billion is going to produce $23 billion of improved educational outcomes, the case for it might be a little bit stronger. I would still probably argue that maybe it's not that compelling. But if we could point to a situation where kids are not being taught because of lack of money, then you could say, well, look, maybe I don't want to see kids coming out of school that can't read and write and get jobs and participate in the world. That's not the case. We've been throwing money at schools for a decade, as I said. Education standards are going down. In relative terms, we're slipping down the world scale. Countries that spend a lot less on education per student are going up the scale. We're doing something wrong, and the answer is not money. That's for sure. So, I oppose spending more money. My view is spend the money that we're already spending better and get some value for it.